All right, here we are looking at our lesson 6, puzzle 11, where it wants you to go through and debug some of our different code here. So this is a good exercise in using our debug console along with looking at our symbols. So I'm going to just read through this code and see what it's looking at and what it's working, how it's working. Up here at the top, it's talking about onboard event, which is your toggle switch, and it wants to run a function when that changes. Nothing wrong with that. Down here, we have our first error. It says LED type hasn't been declared yet. So we're looking at LED type, says it right here. Anytime you see something that says declared, generally it's talking about a variable of some sort. So remember, variables are addressed without quotes. So right here, LED type does not have quotes around it. But if I click this little triangle, here are all of my events and all of my um, objects that I can go ahead and include in this. And right here is LED type. The only difference is it puts quotes around it. So I'm going to go ahead and either type quotes or I can just click on this triangle and choose it. Down here, I have LED speed hasn't been declared yet. Same error, thinks it's a variable because it has no quotes. I'm going to click on this triangle and I'm going to look for that object ID, which is LED speed. And it just puts quotes around it. You can notice my errors have disappeared. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down a little further, see if I can find some more errors. Right here, it says LED hasn't been declared yet. So again, there's something right here. LED hasn't been declared yet. Thinks it's a variable or it doesn't exist anywhere in this program. Now, this is where if the LED type equals constant, right? So it's talking about a variable called LED type up here. But then LED isn't declared. It's not being used. Well, let's take a look at the circuit commands here. An LED on is actually supposed to look like this instead of this, right? So there's a couple of ways you could fix this. The easiest way is to drag this over and get rid of that. That clears out your error. Now, take a look at this. It says for conditionals, use the comparison operator to check if the two things are equal. And if you look at this, it looks like it is using a comparison, but it really isn't. That's underneath the math toolbox here. And I only have one right here. It's the equality operator. So it should look like this, not the purple one here. That's a variable. So I'm going to actually pull this out, kind of keep it off to the side here if I can. No, I'm just going to delete it, I guess. LED type equals blink. And it should be this one. LED type equals blink. And that's not a variable, so I'm going to put, or not, yeah, variable, so I'm going to put quotes around it. LED type equals blank, and you can see it cleared out my error. All right, I'm going to scroll up and down. Doesn't look like there's any other errors, but there's bound to be some more, so I'm going to go ahead and run this. Right away, my debug console says, oop, there's something wrong with line 19, so I'm going to scroll down there. It says type error. T is not a function. All right. So if I take a look at this, what's going on with this? Onboard event duration change. All right. So it's trying to say, all right, well, if this thing called duration changes, go ahead and run this function called play buzzer. The problem with this is an onboard event, if you remember, is referring to your circuit board, right? Your circuit board doesn't have anything on it called duration. Onboard events are your left button, your right button, your toggle switch, and some of your other sensors. A duration is something that's over here on your left, on your app, right? So my duration is, I'm going to go ahead and reset this right here, right? This is the slide switch. And that is not an onboard event. That's an on event, right? This. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this on event. I'm going to put it right underneath this onboard event. And I'm basically going to duplicate this structure, but instead of inside of an onboard event container, I'm going to put it on an on event. So duration, change, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and grab this function play buzzer, pull it in here, Clears out my error, and I'm going to go ahead and grab this and throw that in the garbage because that's trash. Scroll down, any other errors? All right, let's run this and see what happens. Oop, line 22, another one. I'm going to scroll down. It says on event buzzer frequency change. So on event means something over here on my app is looking for that to change. So buzzer frequency, let's see if that exists. So I'm going to hit reset. This is called frequency. This is called duration, buzzer label, instructions, LED speed. So what it's referring to is this slider called frequency. It's not actually called buzzer frequency. Once again, if I click this triangle, this is where it's going to give me all of my object IDs, and it was just typed in wrong. It should just be called frequency. Then it's not referring to an imaginary object. It's referring to this frequency object. All right. Again, let's run it. See how we're doing. No errors. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and run it. Right here is my Adafruit. Let's see how this is supposed to work. If I hit my toggle switch and I change it, it's supposed to run update LED. Right. So I'm going to go ahead and run my LED or change my toggle switch. And it looks like it's updating my LED. I'm going to go ahead and switch that to blink. All right, and it's blinking. I'm going to go ahead and slow down the blink. Let's change it to pulse. All right, let's flip the toggle switch, turns it off. Flip the toggle switch, turns it on. All right, so all of these things are working down here. Let's do my buzzer controls. Short buzz, long buzz, low buzz, high buzz. Oh, that seems backwards, doesn't it? If I want it to be short and I want it to be long, I want it to be high and I want it to be low. That doesn't seem to be adjusting anything. All right, so let's scroll down here. Let's figure out what's going on. Right here, it says buzzer frequency duration. So it's calling the variable duration. That variable is set up correctly. Buzzer frequency is calling this variable frequency. It's going to get the property for frequency, the value. All of that is good, right? But this is actually built backwards. If I take a look at circuit and I want to look at my buzzer command, I'm going to hover over that. And if you look, it's supposed to be buzzer frequency, and then you put in frequency and then duration. This is put in backwards. So that's why these are kind of flipped. So I'm going to go ahead and take frequency and replace it with duration. And then this should be frequency. Now, that's not an obvious error, but if you're beta testing this, let's try this. Is it low? Well, let's make it long. Is it high? Yep. Low, long, short. Yep. Those all work along with my LEDs. So that's the total fix for all of lesson 6, puzzle number 11.